I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously, and we strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. This month's episode is titled, No One Has to Walk Alone. The month of September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. At NCSS, we want to make certain this topic is in the forefront not only this month, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Among the many specialty services made available to the community, NCSS offers prevention programs by facilitating mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid. In addition, we have adolescent services, community services, outpatient, crisis, and mobile crisis available in your time of need. NCSS provides confidential services and programs to individuals struggling with suicidal thoughts. To discuss No One Has to Walk Alone, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guest, Betsy LeBlanc, musician, fitness professional, outdoor adventurer, teacher, and suicide survivor. Betsy, I'd like to welcome you and Sam to the show this month.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what inspired you to come up with the idea of No One Has to Walk Alone?
It's been about a year that I've wanted to raise awareness for suicide prevention because it's an issue that I've struggled with, both suicidal thoughts and depression for a majority of my life. And I've done a lot of work toward my positive mental health, and last year I turned 40. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I realized, wow, this is the first time I really wanted to celebrate my birthday and celebrate my life. And I'd been doing a lot of hiking during that summer, and I thought, well, this is the time. Let's hike the Long Trail. And I thought this was the time to also do the fundraiser and the awareness project for suicide awareness.
That's terrific. So let's talk about how stigma has played a role throughout your life.
Yeah, the depression, I was so young when it started for me. I was about 5 years old, and I didn't fully understand what was happening, and I felt a lot of shame. That I did know. I felt a lot of shame. I felt like it was a burden. And also, we get strong messages very early on in our lives to be strong, to not show weakness. And I think, we take those to heart. And, it creates a lot of shame.
Yeah. Now, what inspired you to begin utilizing hiking as an activity?
Last summer, I had some time off in July and August, and I was training for an athletic event, and I decided to do a lot of hiking to get myself outside. And I found myself hiking about 5 or 6 times a week. Wow. And yeah, it was quite a bit. I was very fortunate to have that time to be able to do it. And I started discovering that hiking became a meditative process for me. Sometimes I like to trail run, and when you're trail running, because of the rocks and roots that northern Vermont is known for in the northern part of the trail, you have to be very, very present and focused, or it's very easy to fall. So it became first a practice in staying present and in the moment. And then there were days where I just wanted to hike and walk, and it became a practice in self-acceptance and self-compassion, because all of I found myself letting my mind wander and while I was hiking. And I didn't always like the thoughts that would come up. And so I really had to practice letting those thoughts happen and just becoming an observer in my thoughts and my feelings.
Now, now that leads us to your journey this summer along the entire 272 miles of the Long Trail, which was to raise awareness about suicide and suicide prevention while raising funds for the Vermont Suicide Prevention Center. So can you tell us about that adventure?
Yeah, I found the Vermont Suicide Prevention Center through my friend, a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Christine de Blasio, who is the director of Stonehouse Associates in South Burlington. And she helped me choose the VTSPC because they're education, they're education-based, and so they really want to break down the stigma by educating and training people in suicide prevention. That's how I chose them, and then I found myself a mentor to help me. Sylvie Vidrine is her name, and we met a couple of times before I hiked, and she helped me through the logistics because I had very little backpacking experience going into it. And she's also a dog lover, so she understood my, what it would entail to have a dog along with me.
Sure.
So, and then so we started in the end of June, and we started in a heat wave, which definitely posed some challenge for us. But we took it slow, and Sam was able to walk the entire 272 miles with me.
Which is amazing.
Yes, it was. I'm very proud of him, and since it didn't rain a lot, he loved it. Had it rained, he might have gotten grumpy along the way, but he had the best attitude every day of our hiking.
That is terrific. And boy, you're right. Talk about the forces of nature. I mean, you couldn't have picked a warmer, drier time here in Vermont. And, I mean, it was just an amazing month. Yeah. The driest in the history of the month. Yeah. So, and warmest, I guess.
Yeah, it was based on last summer and all the rain we had gotten in July. My biggest concern was getting caught in storms, wind storms, and just wet rocks all the time. And I had not considered the challenge of heat wave and drought. So that was a little bit of a curveball for me.
So you learned early on that your journey wouldn't be without challenges.
Yeah.
Let's hear what you had to say.
Hey everybody, say hi to Sam. Looking cute over there. Yeah, we're doing great. We are. We're loving it, and especially now that it's a little bit cooler. A couple days ago was rough. Not only the heat, but my feet were killing me. Blisters, chafing, my ankles, and I learned an important lesson that in this journey there is going to be just a level of constant pain that I'm going to have to accept, and I'm going to have to acknowledge it and look beyond it, because there is a lot of beauty and joy that I'm experiencing on this trip so far.
Now, you also had moments of deep reflection along the way as well. Let's hear what you had to say once you reached Stark Mountain.
Hello from the top of Stark Mountain. I have a half day today because I'm hiking out tomorrow to go to a wedding, and then starting up again on Sunday or Monday for all the exciting stuff. Burnt Rock, Camel's Hump, Bolton Mountain, Mount Mansfield. Woo! This last week was a little interesting. I had to get ahead of schedule because a little critter got into my food bag even though it was hung in a tree, so I lost about a day or two worth of food. So I had to push some really high mileage days. And then a few days ago, the Appalachian Trail and the Long Trail split up, and in the first week and a half, everyone I was meeting generally were Appalachian Trail through hikers. So there was a day where the trail felt really desolate and remote. And it was definitely not a trafficked portion of the Long Trail. And I just started thinking about all the stories that people have shared with me since starting No One Has to Walk Alone, before the trail, since being on the trail. Almost every day since hiking, I've had a conversation with someone about their struggles with depression and suicide, or the loss of friends or family. And it hit me. I just had had a little emotional meltdown right in the middle of the trail, because I knew no one was going to be coming in either direction. So I just I plopped right down in the middle of the trail and cried for about a half an hour, just, replaying all these stories. And, but that's what I'm here for.
And to summarize your journey, you went back to your favorite place, Sterling Pond, where you shared 3 takeaways. So let's take a look and listen to what you had to say.
Hey everybody, I thought I'd come to my favorite place on the Long Trail, Sterling Pond, to do the wrap-up video. And what's really special about this is the resident moose, Sterling, is over there across the pond, feasting on dinner. Anyway, Sam and I had the most amazing adventure, which finished on Tuesday. So I wanted to give you, as quick as I can, my 3 takeaways from this trip. First of all, I am absolutely in love with this state. To have the Long Trail, which is so beautiful and so challenging, run right through the middle of it is amazing. I don't have words for it. We're so lucky. My second biggest takeaway is how many people were not only willing, but wanted to share about their personal experiences with suicide and depression. When I started this, every post that I shared about my personal story was terrifying. And looking back on it and seeing how many people want to talk and want to connect, it was so worth it. So if you can take that step, the connection is worth it. The reward is there. And what I didn't expect from this journey, which I think was the biggest surprise and the biggest gift, is this thing that I have struggled with my entire life. It has felt like a handicap. It has held me back. It has been a source of huge shame for me. Once I opened up about it and started making the connections, that shame is gone. And I feel free from that handicap that I'd felt my entire life. I came into this hoping for a life-changing experience, and I'm going to share with you how I feel like I've changed. 3 months ago when I started this, I would not have considered myself a suicide survivor, and today I feel like a suicide survivor. And not only that, but one who is thriving. I got to think about my timeline a lot while I was walking. From my very first crisis when I was about 13 years old to today, how I have cultivated the skills to avert a crisis. And that is probably my biggest personal accomplishment. You know, many people come out here and hike the Long Trail, and I'm proud that I did it, but I'm proud what I have achieved, more proud of what I have achieved in being able to take care of my mental health. So I am going to continue No One Has to Walk Alone in various projects in the future. So please continue encouraging people to like it. And again, a huge thank you to every single person who contributed financially or by sharing. All the donations are benefiting the Vermont Suicide Prevention Center, and they are doing tons of research and developing trainings and services that are suicide specific. That is huge. And thank you to my sponsor for being so supportive. I got so many texts from people at Northwestern Counseling and Support Services throughout my hike, and especially to Joe Helko, who kept checking in with me every couple of days. And this was amazing all around. And again, thank you to everybody.
So, Betsy, during your journey, you mentioned NCSS and the services that we provide throughout Franklin, Grand Isle counties that are relative to depression and suicidal thoughts. Would you share why that information is so important and why no one should let stigma be a barrier to seeking assistance?
Yeah. First, I found, especially throughout this journey, the more that I talked about it,
Yes.
the more that I shared my story with people, the more the shame and the burden that I've experienced started to go away. So I think that sharing and connecting is really important in the process of letting go and breaking down the barrier of stigma. And I have used mental health services not my entire life, but from the age of 13 on to this day. And it's the most important thing that I do for my mental health is the help that I get through doctors.
And you know what's interesting with you saying that that's the most important thing is so many people who are struggling don't even begin the process of seeking help because of stigma, et cetera, what society has placed on them. But yet you make a statement which I think is incredibly valid, which is it's just like if someone is struggling with diabetes or what have you, and that they're going back to the doctors, and you know this is kind of a common visit over one's lifetime. This is no different.
Yeah.
Is if somebody is depressed or has anxiety or what have you, is that people have to look at it the same way that they would all of the other physical and or medical ailments that people may be struggling with. And it is no different and should not be viewed as something that it only happens over there, not here.
Exactly.
When we say that 1 in 5 people over their lifetime will seek assistance for mental health, and those are the people that will seek the assistance, that doesn't count the number of people, as we're talking, who, because of stigma, don't even come forward.
Yeah. And once I was out on the trail, I talked about suicide and depression every single day. And every person had a story to share that related to, they had experience with it themselves, or had friends or family who are experiencing mental health issues. So it's very common.
And I'm sure, and as you had said in the video too, you're very surprised by that, the number of people who are willing to share. But I think that's one of the, when you talked about your takeaways, that's so validating for what you were doing, and to show that, people have to start talking about these things and helping those who are struggling.
Yeah.
So
the best way, one of the best ways to cope is by connecting, and we need to fight the stigma and connect more.
Yeah. Now, I understand that you're also a classically trained musician. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started playing the clarinet when I was 5th grade. I was 9 years old, and I picked it up, and right away I knew that I would be playing clarinet for the rest of my life. And so far I haven't stopped playing, and I love it. I play with, I did all of my college education in music performance, and now have started with a friend, a wind group, and we've been together we're going into our 12th season.
Oh, that's terrific.
so-
Now, you say you knew the moment that you picked up the clarinet. Was there ever any time in your musical career, though, that you thought about playing another instrument as well, or has it just been all in on clarinet?
It has just been the clarinet. I do sing. I sing for fun, and then I had to learn a little bit of piano when I was in college. But oftentimes I identify with the sound of the clarinet more as my voice than my own voice.
I see.
So it's so internalized.
You know what's interesting about any of the wind instruments in that is the fact that if we had 4 people come in here and each one is going to play, even though they're playing the same instrument, you can tell the voice of the person through, how it's
Yeah.
different, the pitch
Yeah.
and how it's the sound.
Yeah.
It's fascinating
Yeah.
from that standpoint. So I just want the viewers to know that before we close out the show today, you're going to play a piece for us.
Yes, yeah.
As we show some of the terrific sights that you experienced
Yeah.
throughout your hike
Yeah.
over the 1-month period. So we look forward to that later in the show. Now, do you have future plans to continue No One Has to Walk Alone as an initiative? And if so, where are you at on that?
I do. I'm still in the process of developing ideas, but I know that I would like to do. I'd like to continue doing large walks where I can get out and talk to and connect with the community, the larger community, over these issues. And another thing that I would like to do is provide the opportunity to women who have not backpacked, who are interested in backpacking, but are hesitant to go out alone, to provide a service where they can, I can walk with them.
You bring up a good point, and I remember when I was first, after we first met, and we were talking about the fact that you were going to go on this journey. And I remember some people saying to me, you mean Betsy and her dog are going to do this whole thing on their own? And I said, yeah, that's what her plan is. And again, they were not perhaps individuals who go out and do long hikes in it. They've probably hiked recreationally and what have you, but nothing to this extreme. And they were absolutely amazed that you were going to undertake this and do all this, in essence, on your own,
Yeah.
without like a group or what have you. As you encountered people along the way, were most of those who were traveling also doing it on their own, or were there groups, or what did you experience as far as that's concerned?
I have to say that most of the people who were hiking the long trail while I was out there were solo women hikers. I met
Oh.
about 4 or 5 other ones.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I met a lot of people who were also hiking the Appalachian Trail, and because the Long Trail and the Appalachian Trail share 100 miles together. And a lot of people hiking the AT start out by themselves, and then along the way they meet other solo hikers, and they start forming groups that stay together throughout.
I see.
So, but yeah, I met many other solo hikers, especially women.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, not that we're doing a scientific study,
Yeah.
but most hikers being female, et cetera, et cetera.
I was the only person I did see, although I know there are others out there right now who had a dog.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, and once again, I have to commend you because Sam had to really be up for this, and I think you're right. The fact that fortunately on one hand you didn't encounter rain and bad weather, although on the other hand you had some extremely warm weather and it was when it was dry, but. To commend Sam for being able, with the stick-to-itiveness, to be able to do each and every mile.
Yeah.
Were there any points in time where he kind of said, I've had enough for the day, or not necessarily?
No. In fact, he would often want to play fetch at the end of the day.
Oh.
And I could not understand. We did a couple of 20-mile days, and I thought that he would just get to the shelter and he would just lie down and fall asleep, and that was not the case. He would either he would either want to play fetch or he would run around the perimeter of the shelter guarding it. I discovered that Sam does have some guard dog in him, so he's very protective of us in the shelter.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I know I speak on behalf of everyone at NCSS in saying that, I'm really glad that you were able to go through the entire 272 miles, and that, there were no injuries of, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
type of thing, and that Sam was able to make it as well. So
Yeah.
certainly want to commend you and Sam for undertaking the journey, and certainly for the purpose that
Yeah.
you were doing it. And, we as an organization have done work with Vermont Suicide Prevention Center, and it is a terrific organization, and their programming and You Matter and all the various trainings and that around the state are critical.
Yeah.
So with that, believe it or not, we're at a point now, because I do want to close with you playing a song, that our time is up. So I do want to thank my guest, Betsy LeBlanc, and her dog, Sam, for being on the show today, and Betsy for sharing her story of an amazing journey in an effort to raise awareness of suicide and suicide prevention while raising funds for the Vermont Suicide Prevention Center. NCSS is here for you with service to assist if you or someone that you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts. You can call our crisis line at 524-6554. NCSS, you may not know us until you need us. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about NCSS programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You. And now, as I mentioned earlier, to close this month's show, here's Betsy LeBlanc on clarinet.